Welcome to another fabulous Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I'm Mariah Afolabi Brown. As always, I have my beautiful co-host here. Hi, ladies.
Hello, Mariah.
How was your weekend?
It was amazing.
I wanted a resting weekend. I had a working
How was your own
weekend.
weekend?
I worked all through. So I got a call on Friday, 5 p.m. that a client was at a police station. He had taken a matter to the police, and they arrested the suspect, only for the police to decide that, okay, who is richer, and swap my client for the suspect.
Serious?
Oh my.
When you make such allegations, I'm like, you're a lawyer. You should know.
You talk about, I don't say things I'm not.
I
say with all sense of responsibility.
Are you sure that's the reason?
So today I'm going to petition to move the matter to the zonal command, just so that we get justice. When I say things, I say them with all sense of
responsibility.
We know.
I knew that it was because you are richer. Okay.
No, because he got 50,000 bail, and bail was supposed to be free. Imagine a police officer asking my client to pay 50,000. When I insisted on talking to him on the phone, he said, okay, just pay 20. You know I'm helping you people. And then let's settle this thing. Just buy the land again from the other party. Pay them money. I will arrange it and you give me a percentage.
What?
That's complicity on the part of the police. So when I say things like
report to the state, though.
I said I'm moving the matter. Petition straight to the zone.
Obviously, she's reported it.
Lawyer in the building.
Yo.
Maria, how was your weekend?
My weekend was good, especially because I decided that I wanted to be off social media and concentrate on reading books. I haven't been reading books in a long time, and every time I pick up a book, it takes forever to even finish one or two pages. So I purposely, put my phone aside this weekend, and I was able to read a whole book.
Wow.
And I've just gone into the second one. But I also wanted to say something. When Nigerians do love good things, it makes me happy. Some weeks ago, I met someone on social media, and I wanted to buy something. She lives in Kano, and I just trusted her. I sent my money, and she sent the things to me immediately. I just felt so good. We always hear all these horrible stories about Niger, and I'd never met her. We only spoke.
People seem to trust people on Instagram. Was it through Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people just... I have somebody that just did that to send something to Babuja, paid and got the product. So I think people just
Nigerians will have good people.
No, we still have good people.
Right.
We should
Even
celebrate that.
Tokwe, how was your weekend?
My weekend was busy, interesting. I had a lot of fun, hang out. That aside,
I
though,
saw videos.
Yes.
I didn't see all these things. And
It was what? No,
went
it
clubbing
was
with
just.
her husband.
Live video.
Oh no, I did not. I was just saying.
Papa, were you drunk?
I wasn't drunk. I was a bit tipsy, though.
Yes, because you're acting.
So you're 6 feet away from Oga, so you guys are just doing everything together.
It's been a very, very interesting return, and I'm enjoying it. But yesterday, I went to church, and I attended the Thanksgiving service of one of my clients who at 45 got pregnant, and she wasn't planning.
Wow.
And it was a really, really stressful pregnancy. She was almost in tears as she was giving testimony of how, you hear your child might have autism or Down syndrome because you're getting, had a child in later age, but everything went well, glory to God, and I just pray that any other person looking for such blessing would receive it in such a story, But
I remember when you were so excited about that, about pregnancy. Fantastic.
Mariah, how was yours?
I have a small confession to make, man. I feel really bad. Yesterday, I couldn't go to sleep. You see, yesterday I was in pain in my leg, and I couldn't sleep, and my kids were making noise in their room, and they were just shouting. When you're just upset like this, and the house help was trying really hard to get them to sleep. I took my husband's belt. Belt.
Have you joined me?
Okay.
I wrapped it around me. I went to their room. I mean, I couldn't... the oldest one, 6 years old. I hit her.
on the hand.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that
I've
was,
never seen... No, I hit her. I mean, when I said I really hit her twice.
But
the way she screamed and cried, I felt so much pain.
Inside her.
I couldn't beat the remaining because she was in serious pain. And suddenly
Being
it flashed.
shocked.
And it flashed like when my father was hitting me when I was 8 years old with the same belt. And I was like, I couldn't sleep because you see, the pain I had in the leg disappeared. I started feeling that pain of a parent, like, why did I have to put that girl through this? I mean, I couldn't sleep. This morning I had to go to her.
I've heard something about beating. That beating
You went what? Wait,
it's actually lazy parenting. That when you're...
You may hear what?
It's lazy parenting. instead of sitting down and talking to the child and letting the child understand,
I think sometimes
you took the easy way out.
You need to balance it. I'll support Nima in terms of you need to balance it. So when you've done that, there should be an apology though, and an understanding.
Apology.
And
I apologize this
you
morning.
apologize that I beat you because you did not take charge of your younger ones. And you explained it.
Apologize.
No, you apologized because you went out of control. She was angry. She reacted in anger.
The only reason
you saw
she
the
took
fear
that
in this children's eyes.
Because it's never happened.
It would last over a
and it's
period
not
of time.
supposed
And
to,
support
especially
with
the
love.
reason why she
Brian,
did
just
it.
keep the cane in the house. And
Nima,
madam knows to behave.
You are a typical Nigerian mother,
Right.
and we don't want that.
I said, I felt like they should arrest Frank. I was like, this police just arrest me.
It's the American thing, don't worry.
It's just the way it should be.
It's Monday. Anyway, I will never do that again in my life. Just in case
She's watching.
somebody's watching.
She's
No, not
watching.
her.
She's
Not-
watching.
Lagos State official
If
can
mommy-
watch.
she knows
watch
mommy
it.
is
Yes,
never
and
going to
they
do
might
that.
invite you to the
Yes,
office
she's not in
and talk
school,
to
so
you.
she's watching.
She's watching. She knows mommy would never do it.
Let's go on
again.
a break. We come back. We'll go through the fun things on the news. But stay with us. We'll be right back. She's not watching. She's waiting. We're going to start with The Punch. Actually, all the papers just have political stories, which is very, really, it's a downer this morning, but it's all good, Sha. The Punch. Kaduna APC defies Oshomole over Sunny. Kano Deputy Governor resigns. Defection, Akpabio meets Buhari in London. Housewife stabs husband to death over phone call.
No.
Lagos Ibadan Rail, federal government to deploy 16 locomotives, 40 coaches and others. Igbo interested in restructuring, not presidency. Tragedy as 9 youth corps members drown in Taraba. 7 banks make 8.5 billion naira fresh investment in software. Olubadan High Chiefs hold peace meeting. Oh, I wish I read that story. That would be nice.
I wanted to.
The human interest story, the housewife that stabbed her husband. Who has that story?
Yeah, I do. I have the story. So, Olumide Ayeni, a 23-year-old housewife, stabbed her husband, Damilola, a pharmacy attendant at the Lagos Island.
That's what I
General.
think is Olumide.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Olumide's husband,
yeah.
All
The
right,
wife is
sorry,
Damilola.
Damilola.
Right.
Okay, so I've got the names mixed up. Okay, so on Friday, he had gone for a party, and they said that she went to the party to see what he was doing and caught him dancing with someone. And their marriage is, according to eyewitness, their marriage had always been turbulent, you know. So she talked to her mother-in-law. Usually the mother-in-law would intervene and talk to her husband, but the mother-in-law on that particular day was tired of the complaints and told her off. So she stabbed him. When they got home, around 11:25, she stabbed him.
Three stabs in
yeah,
the chest.
in
So
the chest.
Very,
Very sad. He was rushed to the hospital, but
He lost a lot of
yeah,
blood.
he lost a lot of blood.
People
and he
don't know
died.
that once that kind of thing happens, try to block the bleeding. Don't let it, because just find something
Well,
to
if-
tie.
Let me use that.
place.
Top
Very-
says
That's like the first stage, so they don't lose too much blood.
Okay,
No,
so that's
when
the
you're
first
in
thing. But
a
this
marriage-
is a 23-year-old woman who stabbed her husband. Was she thinking of saving him?
The marriage
Generally,
is
we
full
hear
of
of people
distrust.
dying because of
the man had
loss of
2
blood.
children from different women before he married her, and she just had her own child just this May. So this marriage had a foundational problem, and I would like to talk about the usual line of, you know, when there's a problem, step out, solve the problem before, you know.
And then this is a 23-year-old girl. I mean,
Now she's a
quite young.
murderer.
Yes, she's called.
and that's
There's
it.
no other. There's no,
Her
we
life
don't
is
have a law
ruined.
for crime of passion.
And the baby.
It's murder case.
And the baby.
Let's move on to the nation. Akpabio meets Buhari in UK ahead of defection to APC. Ambody kicks off expansion of truck terminal. Why National Assembly must reconvene now by presidency. SEC fails to file report for 4 years. Resign now, Falana tells Saraki and others. EFC likely to quiz Ekwerimado's wife. And 9 NYC students and members drown in Taraba. You have the Falana story?
Yes, so the Silk was talking about the defection, separating issues, saying that, you know, those people in the National Assembly, about 56 of them in the National Assembly that defected, should honorably resign their positions and make their positions vacant. And now he's using, you know, precedents, of course, that there's precedent for that, and separating the issues from the governors who defected. So Benue, Sokoto, and
What's the difference?
The difference is that, you know, there's also precedence that their defection does not contradict the sections of the Constitution that forbids defection. Now, the formation of RAPC is an excuse that, you know, the exception that allows them defect in the National Assembly. But the defection means that you must defect into the new faction of the party, not into another party. But then also, again, in the same breath, he said, because the APC benefited from such defections in the past and didn't say anything, they should morally not, they're not morally justified to be objecting to it now.
Okay, I just wanted to give an opinion. I mean, it was, in that case, shouldn't it have been the PDP's right to have asked for, that these people should,
step down?
Should step down. But if they did not exercise their rights, that shouldn't stop APC from exercising their rights.
Let's move on to the New Telegraph. APC luring senators with 50 million naira to sack Saraki, that's reformed APC. NNPC, we are not funding plot. Suspension, El Rufai Oshomole on collision course over Shehu Sani. Picture here of our president and God's will Akpabio, nicely bowed. Akpabio, nicely bowed. 2019, Akpabio's defection unsettled government and PDP. Akwa Ibom begs party leaders, Buhari ex-government meet in London. Let's see what other story.
Can we take the major headline?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's take the major headline.
So,
I was actually drawn with the contraceptive story, but I know nobody read that story, but go ahead.
Okay, so APC, our APC, that's like reformed APC spokesperson, is accusing the APC itself through the SGF, Boss Mustafa, that there are Gestapo moves to bribe specific lawmakers. Lawmakers with 50 million naira. The intention is that they would be able to convene and sack the Senate president. Now, when I read it, I was waiting for any form of proof. Like, where is this coming from? And he said, what I just read, all I saw was that he was stating that we want to inform the public that this might happen so that the public is aware if they try to make any move that it was funded.
The numbers going out in the public is like 100 and something million. I mean, this figure that
same story,
over the weekend, we've seen a lot of
there's
figures.
also the APC insisting that they want Saraki out through legitimate means. So it's certainly
they want him out. So you want to cast aspersions on how they want to get him out.
So let me advise them the way Falana said, that, this impeachments that they're planning might be a bit difficult because they need 2/3 majority for it to happen in the Senate, and they don't have it.
Okay, so can we talk about Akpabio? Because the picture went
We'll talk about
yesterday.
seat in Tribune. Let's move on to Nigerian Tribune for a little time. Why APC can't demand Saraki's resignation. Falana, I think Nima already talked about that. The picture here of Godswill Akpabio. Seeing our president in London. 9 state ESCO members dump Osun APC. Kano deputy governor resigns. Southwest farmers in suspense as NSRAL holds disbursed CBN loan. Presidency begs Saraki Dogara to reconvene National Assembly. And Ozubulu community holds memorial mass for 13 slain worshippers today.
So on the 6th of August, 6 people died. It was a murder, and it took place in Ozubulu. The community, the Ozubulu Community Development Union, Mr. Peter Uzoke, announced that the deceased people will be buried and there will be a memorial mass. It was since 2017 that it took place. So there's a memorial 1 year after. Yes, it took the story.
South African.
Yes. The church, the bishop case and all that. So for those that did not remember, there was a case that they said it was allegation from South African drug lords, and they came to try and catch them, and then there was a shootout within the church. So they're doing a memorial service. Our heart still goes out to them, and still we haven't had a closure on that case. It's really, really sad. We heard about an arrest. Yes, but there
was an arrest at that time, but nothing else. Nobody has been convicted yet. Akpabio in London, who has that story?
So God's will, Akpabio in a God's willing defection went to see.
He hasn't defected.
Let me just finish now. What happened now?
He's just
went to visit the president in London, and they were so. According to him, he said they were talking about development, talking about government policies. But Nigerians are social media is very ripe with
because the picture was leaked by the presidential aides.
No, he tweeted the picture. The Akpabio himself tweeted the picture.
Also,
okay, so it wasn't leaked.
The picture was of Akpabio holding the hands of the president,
bowing.
As in, it was cutting. It was a serious
president.
Okay, so we've always seen Akpabio as being extremely forthright and the figurehead of PDP.
So our president is much older than him. The show of respect. Let's not.
As much as
I'm sure there will be other.
I have totally ignored the politics of what is going on right now, the defection and all that. But the point is, it is not in our interest, and I need people to understand that this entire drama is not in the interest of us. us getting the best. It's not about them finding their best platform to push their own agenda.
Okay, so we cannot forget this, the kids that got drowned. I know, Isaac. Who has that story?
Yes, I do. So youth corpers in Taraba State, 9 of them, unfortunately, had a party beside this river, and 9 of them drowned. They were able to recover 7 bodies. They're still looking for 2 more.
About 22 people had the party. All of them were swimming. But, you know, 9.
Yes.
Nima is suspecting Mami Water.
Mami Water.
No, but the thing is that there was an increase in the volume of the water, and that's what caused.
Unfortunately, that's all we can take on this part of the show. When we return, we discuss the minimum wage. What are your views? Do you agree for the state control or federal government control? And later, reducing poverty in Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So with the current situation in Nigeria, most Nigerian workers are sad because they cannot afford to keep living on the current minimum wage of 18,000. Now, the question is, who should determine the increase of minimum wage for the workers, the state or the federal government? Let's hear your views. You can call us on 070-806-68014. You could also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. We know people have been conversing on this issue that should the states determine it or the federal government. Currently, it's the federal government that determines the minimum wage, and they have their reasons for it. But people are suggesting that why can't individual states determine the minimum wage based on their capacity to pay salaries? But what are your general views on this? Let me start with Nima. Want to go?
Okay, so because it is minimum wage, it means that, you know, someone has set the bar for what is the lowest that can be paid. And because the minimum wage thing is under the exclusive list of the Constitution, we need a constitutional amendment to remove it from that list to the concurrent list to allow states to now determine what they can pay. But be that as it may, the states can then go higher depending on what they can afford. A state like Lagos State, for instance, cannot say because minimum wage is 18,000 and continue to pay it. They can afford to give their workers better welfare. They can provide whatever. But for some states that are, you know, lazy and are not willing to increase their IGR in any way, you have their governors waiting all the time for bailouts to pay salaries. Those kind of states cannot be allowed to then bring it lower. That is why I would prefer.
But don't you think some states can hide behind that and say, you know what, instead of, because I know I have the capacity to pay more, but because the minimum is 18,000. Let me just stick to the minimum. At least I am obeying what the national rate is.
I agree with Nima in the sense that if the federal government can set the minimum wage, and then the state government can decide, you know, based on its IGR what it can afford. But if there's no government policy that insists that the government, or there has to be a way that the citizens will be able to make sure that its state government pays what it can actually afford instead of hiding behind the fact that the amount of money has been set. But the federal government, I think, is the only one right now, based on the constitution we have and the system that we have, that has that sort of power and authority that is able to enforce a minimum wage. I don't think the state has that.
People's general opinion. But what's then the role of the House of Assembly? Shouldn't they be the one to make the rule, to make the law, to ensure that the government actually meet certain standards? So I don't totally agree with the federal government setting that standard. But the job of the House of Assembly is to force the government, the executive, to pay a certain agreed amount, not waiting for the federal government to be the one to set the standard.
I don't think that it is the business of the federal government in a federal system to determine what each state pays as salary to their staff. We've already run on that. That system came to being when we had military officials where the central had control over everything going on, and everybody was depending on the central and the presidency to diffuse whatever is going on in each state. The presidency needed to maintain control. But right now, even the federal system is struggling to pay its staff. So we have some states that can afford it, which is okay. If you can, you do it. But each state is supposed to generate what they would use to fund themselves. And if they cannot, why should the state governor be compelled to pay what they cannot afford to pay? By the time you give that freedom to the states to determine what they pay their staff, I, as a member of a state, can hold my governor accountable and say that I am contributing to your government. I am working hard. I should be paid well.
Hang in there, but the fear in that, which is a good option, but the fear in that is that people from other states will now start migrating towards that state that pays the highest. Before you know it,
that's not even the fear. The fear is that governors who already have problems paying salaries, owing 10, 12 months of salaries, will not have the excuse of saying, you know, we don't have funds, we have problem, we cannot afford to pay up to 18, so let's go lower.
Yes,
that's the risk of
and how is that a problem?
Pauperizing. What's that word?
How is that a problem?
Turning into, you see.
How is that a problem?
We have a state. There's a state in Nigeria, who refuses to pay workers' salary, but in an undignified manner, starts to give them Christmas and whatever rice.
Okay, so I understand that.
Let me let Mariam come in.
Okay, yes. For me, as I said before, the only body right now, the sort of system that we have, the federal government is the only one that can enforce it.
Yes, that's what we have.
Yes, the state government would, as we have seen in so many other cases, would have the situation where they would not, they are unable to pay even this minimum wage.
How effective is the enforcement? They cannot pay the current minimum wage. The workers are demanding for a higher minimum wage, and you're going to take it higher, and the state to be indebted.
Enforcement.
So here's my option, which I think we should consider.
Right.
Number one, it should be taken away from the exclusive list. It shouldn't be strictly a purview of the federal system. Number one. Number two, each state has a responsibility for its people. But as long as the fees I'm supposed to pay as a state governor was imposed upon me by the federal, I'll go back and meet them and say, Oga, I don't have money. You were the one that told me to pay 18,000 as minimum wage. Help me solve the problem. But if it is strictly my job as a state governor and I have sovereignty over my state, I am responsible for my people. I cannot blame any external force.
So it can actually lead to healthy competition between the states.
Exactly.
But wait. Could this be an issue of trust again? Remember, we're having issues with the police, having independent state policing. So issue of trust, saying that if we give you this power,
yes,
there's a possibility that the people might not actually benefit from this.
Because they have set a precedent. I'm sorry, this is our country. We have seen so many times how they have failed us in so many other things. And I really cannot trust right now, with the sort of government we have, I cannot trust the state government to make sure that the people are getting what they are meant to get.
Okay, let me take this call from Taju and I'll come to Nima. Taju, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, please.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I want to be on to your view.
You are on. You are live. Go ahead, please.
Hello. I'm talking to Nima. Oh, okay.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, fine.
How are you, Brown?
Fine.
Mrs. Brown, how are you?
Go ahead, please. Taju, you only have 30 seconds. Go ahead, please.
Like in Niger State that I work, Niger State is not paying even 18,000 naira minimum wage.
Okay. How much?
You understand? So a lot of states cannot meet up with the new minimum wage. Okay. Honestly speaking, it is very, very uncomfortable. It should be left to the federal government to decide on the money because the money federal government give them that allocation. After giving them that allocation, they don't pay it out. They went on doing a white elephant project so that it can benefit them. So the best bet is for federal government to give them the amount of money they will pay, and they should give them that allocation and they should pay. But
with this 18,000, Tajuddin, with this 18,000, they are still not paying. So what makes you think they're actually going to pay if the federal government continue to insist?
So the National Assembly should re-amend the law. When they re-amend the law, so as to let every government should be able to pay.
Okay, does it also weaken the House of Assembly? Because we need the House of Assembly to come forward and say, you know what, our people deserve...
House of Assemblies are rubber stamps.
In
most cases.
Fortunately, yeah, go ahead.
It is on the exclusive list, and I agree completely with Tokwe, it should be taken to the concurrent list. But then again, once the federal government can set the tone for what the most basic salary should be, I'm sure the states will do. Now, for enforcement, nobody can enforce what labor should get more than labor. So the NLC, whatever factions they believe in, should wake up from whatever slumber they are in. Right now in Nigeria, workers don't get enough benefits. Workers are owed salaries. Workers are casualized. Workers are, they are not taking care of post-work. NLC should stop having this faction and all this corruption that they are doing.
Let me take this call from Alaji Subara. Are you there? Thanks for calling.
Yeah, morning,
Morning, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, Moraya, I want to ask you a question. You are a mother, and you go to market. Do you think even if they multiply the minimum wage times 3, do you think the Nigerian workers can meet up with the economic situation, with the inflation that is happening in this country? It's not. So we need to be reasonable. Increase of salary does not warrant it. Look at the distribution. How many times have they increased NEPA bill? The bill for NEPA. So the federal government should be very serious. We need to be reasonable. Increase of salary does not warrant it. We need to make the condition of living, the standard of living in Nigeria conducive.
Elijah, thanks for that example, because I now bring this to homes. Imagine the government saying every home, the minimum you stop shopping list you give to your wife is X amount of 1,000 naira. Not everybody, every family must determine the budget to take to the market. You can't tell me as a family that everybody must go to shop.
The minimum wage isn't the exact salary people are getting. Most of the workers in civil service don't actually earn minimum wage. They get into at a different level above that. But even at that, the cost of living in Lagos is different from the cost of living in Ogun. It's different from the cost of living in Enugu State. It's different from the cost of living in Enugu State. So if my pocket money in Lagos is 40K and it will last me a month, I will probably live off 4,000 naira in another state. So why do you compare someone who is living in Lagos with the inflation and the cost of living in Lagos with somebody living in Niger State? It's different.
Lagos State workers are one of the best cared for in the world. I can tell you because I know the most minimum in Nigeria. The most minimum level they get is way above 80. I know for a fact. But we are talking about minimum. We're saying set a standard for the lowest a state can pay. So a state must be looking at getting higher. And if Labour is in tune with what's happening in the state,
they're not looking to get higher.
Labour should compel governors of each state. Because you see, when they owe workers' salary, they don't owe governors' salaries.
We have to round up, unfortunately. We have a guest who's coming to talk on entrepreneurship. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So according to reports, Nigeria has one of the world's highest economic growth rates, averaging 7.4%, according to the World Bank. Despite all of these, poverty is still staring us in the face. Joining us on the show is a chief politician, Chief Razak. Mr. Chief Larry Razak, actually. Yes, welcome to the show. So you can call us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweet. Before we get into the conversation of poverty alleviation or entrepreneurship to get us out of poverty, let's hear his views on our conversation on minimum wage. What do you generally think? Do you agree that the federal government should retain that, or should we think it should be brought down to state?
The issue of minimum wage is not the business of federal government.
Okay. Thank you.
Because cost of living varies between the 36 states.
Thank you.
The cost of living in Lagos cannot be the same thing in Niger State,
right,
nor Kogi, nor Benue.
Right.
But for the federal government to put a law, because it's in the exclusive legislative list, and say pay 50,000 per month, I don't know how some states will cope. But if you leave it out for state to determine what will be the minimum wage of their workers, and taking into consideration that you need to mobilize and motivate them to do good job for the state, I can't imagine where a state earns about, say, 10 million per month, and that money belongs to the public to provide social needs of the people, and you ask them to pay everything to their workers.
Sir, but wouldn't it be fair to say that the federal government didn't just come up with a figure? They must have sat down and have looked at it, and they came up with a figure that they think can be minimum across the nation. Not that they just sat down and just picked a number and just sent to...
You are living in this country, and in the last 1 year, how many states were able to pay 18,000
no matter how much it is, they are never able to pay.
Let me conclude. If you know that this ABC state cannot pay, what yardstick then will you have to determine a higher figure for them? How do they cope?
Sir,
we must be realistic.
As realistic as we would like to be. Yes. Is 18,500, is it a dignifying amount of money to be paid as a wage to any Nigerian worker in this country?
If my answer to that is no. But there is no way you stop war unless you stop cost of war. Why are these people not paying? That's the first question. If they are not paying, are we now going to say that whatever comes as federal government
allocation.
allocation.
That's the problem.
They should use it purely for
There's
salary.
no law.
And
I'm
if
aware.
it's not enough, go to bank and take more loans.
They shouldn't.
But
There's no law stopping.
they must pay workers.
There's no law
Once
stopping
you
every
engage them-
state from generating its own idea. No law in Nigeria stopping them. So a lazy governor who doesn't know how to generate funds for his...
Would you compel that by forcing them to pay higher salary?
They should be compelled. That will make the governor sit up and look for other ways to earn this money.
No, but he said something very important here.
Let me give you one thing. We're in this country. Say a particular state is not making enough to pay workers.
Right.
You can come increasing the money they make through taxation. And if the people had been overtaxed and you ask more taxes on them, they will then shift away from your state to a more conducive state. Take, for instance, land charge in Lagos for some time ago, when even Jakande was the governor. When it became unbearable for some industry, they moved to Ogun State.
Right. That's right.
You see, once you want to take a decision, look at the pros and cons and look at the factors that is responsible
Let's now connect
for not
this,
making the money.
Let's connect this now to poverty alleviation, because there's this is always connected to how we can help to alleviate poverty. Unfortunately, even with our growth rate, there's still lots of poverty in the land.
So much.
And I know you've tried your aspirants for Lagos State Governor at some point, and you're very active in Ekpe. In your view, what can we do proactively? We've heard of poverty alleviation programs across board. What can we objectively do generally to help reduce the amount of poverty we have in this country?
Thank you. Instead of hammering everybody must be in government service and collect as much as he needs for the month, let's go to agriculture. Let us give graduates land. Let's give them inputs. Let's assist them. Let's have a situation that when the products of their farm is out, government will buy and send back to the market on subsidized rates. People will be busy doing something. And another thing, some governors don't do construction of road because there is no money. So that is not good. Because the more projects on the ground, the more people will be employed.
Are they really employing Nigerians to do the construction work? Because we know the contract goes to able-bodied organization, and some of them are employing expatriates to do it. We don't have the expertise. Sir, and somebody called and said that a lot of times white elephant projects are carried out by the state governors as an opportunity to siphon funds, and that's an opinion in many people's minds, justified because some of the projects don't have direct relevant impact on the lives of the people, and a lot of money goes into those projects. So when it comes to poverty alleviation, I told the line that an educated population, an enlightened population, would take itself out of poverty faster than any Okada, Keke Napep, washing machine, whatever it is you give us will do. Because when we're educated, we can rationalize our way out of it.
Let me add to that, sir, because I was going to take you up on what you said, that giving land to youth and all that, because I know the Jonathan administration tried with the you-win concept. They were giving money to young people. Guess what?
And they
to
ran
start
away.
businesses. They went to get for something else. They followed up with all the, I think about 10,000 youth. They followed up with them. They realized that half of them, over half, never used the money for exactly what they wanted to do. So because they're not equipped education-wise to do exactly what we expect them to do. So if you give these young people land, give them, they like to just give it to grandpa or sell it and go and do something else with the money. So don't you think education really should be our focus, not necessarily agriculture like that?
Anyway, will you say because if you farm, thieves will come and take your farm product and you refuse to farm? If you refuse to farm, you will be in hunger and the thief will not have anything to steal. Right. I strongly believe that giving the right people, going to domesticate our issues with leadership of the community involved, we will get there. China is now a force to be reckoned with, both in economy and what we talk of world power. Right. They started somewhere. Malaysia was picking farm products and from Nigeria. Right. Yes. Now we are buying from them. Right. We must be committed. And it borders again on leadership. Okay. The leadership must have a clear future in their head that where am I taking this country to?
Which is exactly where my point is.
And again, Nigeria, we should not have poverty here. Taking into consideration the quantum of money available in this country. The other time, the vice president was saying that there was an arrangement with NNPC, buy and pay later, $3 billion. The people took away our oil, and they never paid. And now that they did the same thing and recovered the same amount, you remember the number of roads they said they would do? Ibadan, East, not a lot of projects. Niger bridge, second bridge, they were doing it. And we come back to the issue of corruption.
Right. That's where I was going.
The problem we have in this country, Nigeria should not be in any business of poverty. If you change that $3 billion to Naira, you know how much it is? Right. And if our population is still within the region of 200 million, you know how much each Nigerian, give them 1 million, you still have a lot of money. Okay, start your life, start your business. Giving somebody just money to live will not end poverty.
So I believe
you give 18,000 Naira to a human being, either in Lagos or anywhere, how can he survive?
I believe in the diversification that you talked about. So empowering youth to go into farming is a good idea. But that's just the first stage of agriculture that we do here.
Yes.
In Malaysia, for instance, that you said, they do the entire chain. So you have someone doing the farming, one person taking care of taking care of them as resources, converting them to goods, complex products, the entire chain. What should government be looking at? Lagos has done it recently. So they do the farming in Kebi, bring the rice, the refining, everything. So there more people are employed, people are gainfully employed.
Distribution.
The distribution, everything is taken care of. Down here, we have that as an example that will work anywhere in the country. Shouldn't governments around the world, around the country be looking into this kind of plans of empowering youth?
Leadership and governing by example is the key issue. Commitment is the key issue. Nigerians should stop monetizing their voters card and taking 2,000 and 1,000, and you only end up in trouble.
Right.
Leadership is primarily the art of creating confidence. Do they have confidence in the leader running their affairs? Yeah. How much is... And we go back to the issue of education. The media and every right-thinking people should educate Nigerians of their right.
Okay. Let's go.
When you know your right, you can stay afloat. What happens in Lagos may not happen in another state, even our neighbor, Ogun State. Therefore, applying the resources to get the best for the people and for the people to appreciate it, social media is here and now.
Okay. All right, let me pause you for a second. Let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and take some more tweets. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So, I know Nima, you had a question.
Yes. So, for me, I just feel like our government really doesn't understand. I think our government is struggling with how to alleviate poverty. I mean, recently, the government announced that it was planning to share the $322 million Abacha loot in a country of 87 million people. How much would these people get? And in what way does this help in poverty alleviation? What are your thoughts on?
Well, one thing, maybe I will want to agree with them sharing the money.
Okay.
To start from somewhere. All they need to do is to follow the system we are doing in Lagos State. They give money to entrepreneurs who invest and employ more people and removing what we are calling poverty.
Okay.
You cannot eliminate it just in a day, but gradually. If the federal government could provide, and I know they have it, sufficient fund for well-trained entrepreneurs, not they just give the money without training and the money go down the drain. That will help us a lot in eliminating poverty, reducing poverty to the barest minimum. And further to that, we must tackle corruption in all ways.
So
most of the state government today in Nigeria, if they block all the holes where their money gets out of hand, they will have enough to pay their workers.
See, this issue, I really get tired of talking about corruption because I remember when Buhari came on, that was the most important.
That was the change mantra.
Everybody was talking about corruption, corruption. And we're all kind of just tired of hearing corruption because it's almost as if we're going on the vicious cycle. This thing is so deeply rooted in our psyche that you can't really treat it from the top. It has to come. So right now, I'm not even worried about corruption anymore. It's almost as though, give me policies, give me something I can hold to say, okay, I'm going to improve the economy. For example, issue of entrepreneurship. There are a lot of young people out there that we're saying, well, not only young people, even schools, tell them to accommodate, to start infusing entrepreneurship courses so that young people are better equipped to, because that's the only way we can grow our economy. In your view, what can the government do to help young people, entrepreneurs, people who have great ideas, to be forthcoming with those ideas?
There is a lot of product we can train people on doing. Look, for instance, in China, one room is a factory. They produce something. And the government help them to market outside their country. And if we do that, it will be better for us.
Right.
One thing I want to emphasize on, we must operate through federalism. The state must be free to determine how they run their state. If in a given situation, what we're doing in Lagos State today, I'm aware that there are no, if there will be defaulters of repayment, very negligible.
Yeah.
And the percentage of interest, maybe for administrative reasons, maybe 5%. You won't get that in the bank. If you take a loan from the bank where you pay about 28% interest, before you know it, all the capital you took from them as a loan will go. You will be looking for how to pay the interest and on the rest. We must really provide scientific research into the need of Nigeria.
Okay.
And once we have the result, we must implement it religiously.
Okay.
The vice president, in a project they are doing, they are working seriously through the president, Muhammad Buhari, to have a certain amount fixed so that they can select pilot project example in each of the states. Once that could be successful and people are going along the line, it will generate employment and it will reduce issue of corruption.
I see Lagos State pioneering a lot of projects, and what we've been saying here that why can't we get other states to copy what is going on in Lagos State? Why can't we get other states to work together and empower? Because I have a studio, makeup studio, inside a salon. That salon was funded by LSTF. The salon has increased. They've employed over 10 people based on the loan they got from Lagos State at that 5%. And I got into the place, nail technicians got into the place. The economy have expanded. Business has generally expanded because they funded just one business. And so it is obvious that there are many opportunities like this that it would work and you have... It would work and you have that effect. So we need to just have more of it.
He says, dash government money to entrepreneurs to do business to reduce poverty. Forget it. They don't abide by minimum wage. Most of them will keep all the profits and pay starvation wages. Andrew says, I think the difficulty in paying minimum wage could start to scare people in becoming governors of a state, which is good because it will make us have good leaders in office. Emmanuel Okoli says, reducing poverty in Nigeria, it's really a complex task which needs concurrent effort from everybody, both the government and the people, private sector, and even the international communities.
Yes, we have to round up very soon. Sorry, then the last thing was you want to let out.
One thing is maybe it doesn't consider. If government gives out loan to entrepreneur, it increases the circulation of money. It will affect the market. It has a ripple effect on the whole system. If you fear that if you give loan, they won't pay, and you don't give, that is too bad. You must give. You must have a measure of checking and ensuring that people pay.
Parameters.
And there must be yardstick to determine the kind of people you give to.
Yes.
There must be serious, committed people who really want to make a mark. Like the lady here had just said he got a loan, and you can see that on her face too.
I wasn't the one. It was my business partner.
They will start showing it on them when there are no problem. You see, a lot of people commit suicide in other countries because they don't have their life. They can't think of what they eat tomorrow, and they don't know how to take care of their family. Right. Government should deliberately come in. Okay. They should remove the issue of minimum wage. It's not the issue. The minimum wage cannot help them to live comfortably, no matter how much you provide now. Right. What I'm seriously thinking is that which will encourage this entrepreneur kind of something. Okay. Because once somebody is not earning enough, he tries to make it up from somewhere, and the money is no longer for the state, and then we are talking of corruption.
Thank you very much, sir. It's always a pleasure having you. Thank you very much. That's all we can take on the show. I hope you learned a few things. Remember, Wednesday is our live audience show. Please come early. Do not use unbranded oil also because it's very unhealthy for you. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.